Debasey. 1, 2, 3.
Hi there, my name is Dan Towson, I go under the name of Debasey. I work as a VJ and video artist, and in the last few years I've got a lot more into content creation. Today we're going to present a lesson about content creation, talking about equipment and cameras, some of my favourite techniques that I've experimented with to make the kind of footage that I make.
So there's a lot of different brands of cameras. How do you go about choosing the camera that's right for you?
There's a wide range of choice when it comes to choosing cameras, and it's obviously depending on the specific kind of job that you want to do and what you want to shoot.
Sony brands are always usually popular, mostly because they're really intuitive interfaces and they're very easy to use.
It's something like the Sony EX1, which produces really good quality video. You can't change the lenses on this camera, but the fixed lens that it comes with is a very good quality lens. Sony have a higher model of this, which is the EX3, where you can change the lenses. But out and about, you see people using all sorts. A lot of people are still filming with DV cameras. People are using this, and then other similar cameras along this line, the Panasonic P2.
This is a card capture camera. If you're thinking about using this camera, you need to make sure that you've got some way of capturing from the P2 cards.
I'm a filmmaker from Cameroon. I live in France and I've been making films for the last 25 years. The newer models are doing almost the same thing, but they are lighter. The more I'm using this camera, the more I started really deciding to not work fully automatic anymore, to work mostly manual so that I can control the light and control the focus.
I use the Canon 5D Mark II, which when it came out about 18 months ago, kind of revolutionised the filmmaking world for a lot of people. Being a DSLR camera that shoots amazing high quality HD footage. The beauty is that you're able to interchange lenses. This is the Canon 45mm tilt and shift lens. And the beautiful thing about this lens is the ability to tilt a few degrees this way and a few degrees this way, and the ability to turn the lens around. And basically what this is doing is changing the angle of the glass against the mirror, which creates a really interesting blur across the whole image and opens up a whole area of real creativity. This is an 8mm fisheye. It can produce some really fun, interesting results. It really.
I'll probably cut to an image at that point.
Piece of equipment like a jib can help raise production values of your shoot. Shoot from different angles, from up above high. You can get like a sweeping motion, you come down. Be able to pan around. But I think one of the hardest things with a piece of equipment like this is basically getting a smooth movement. And this would just come through practice and time. Another way to achieve this is with a dolly, which is basically the camera's on a series of rails and moves smoothly across your shot, either in a straight line or you have curved dollies where the camera is then going to be focusing around your subject and your scene. A dolly can be a very basic homemade thing. A lot of people make their own very rough options. There is one system, it's called the Mini Skater. So yeah, the Mini Skater takes the concept of a skateboard and turns it into a dolly system for a camera. It achieves really smooth results. It basically, because it has 3 wheels, it works actually, if you move it, it actually turns around an object.
I added these this support that allows me to put a follow focus, and this is the follow focus. Actually, the follow focus allows you to have a better grip on the focus and also to fine-tune the focus. And you can see that that's one of the features that make the difference between images shot by people who are learning and the cinematographers with experience, because all the stuff is always, the focus is always where they really want it. And this sort of feature also allow you to play with depth of field, so you can put filters and to make sure that the depth of field is just where you want the attention of the viewer to be.
Depth of field is the amount of the image that's in focus when you're shooting. It gives a gradation of blur around the subject on which you're focused. And it adds some perspective into your shot. Larger apertures and closer focal distances produce a shallower depth of field.
A recent piece of equipment that I purchased was this panoramic machine, and you can program this machine to basically turn as quick or as slow as you want. Time lapse is very, for me, it's one of my favourite things to try and capture, especially filming around cities and stuff. And the easiest way to go about this is with one of these, which is an intervalometer. So for example, in this mode at the moment, this would be telling the camera to take one shot every 4 seconds. The minimum is that it shoots once every second. The maximum could be days, so you know your options are limitless.
I always like to have a shotgun microphone, this one that allows me to really capture things at distance, and another microphone that allows me to capture the ambient sound. So I always use the two microphones because I have two channels.
This little tripod is very simple, but really useful. Having this ability to bend all the legs, you can now stick your camera in a variety of places that was previously, impossible. You can hang it from a tree or whatever. Just again allowing new options, different angles and different places to shoot.
When you're putting a shoot together, you might need to consider the lighting of what you're shooting as well. Whether you're shooting inside or outside, there's still some variables that need to be taken into account.
When shooting outside, especially in harsh sunlight, a polarizer can help to really bring out the colours in a sky, and also the colours of the water or the sea.
Preferred shooting conditions might be somewhat cloudier day when the lighting is even across the board. Some people also prefer to shoot in twilight, which is the time of day just as the sun is going down. Shooting in twilight gives a somewhat surreal sense of daytime, and often the shadows and lighting is well balanced. If you're shooting in a studio, you've got a lot more parameters that you can control. I'm going to go through some basic camera and studio lighting setups and look at how they work and what effect is achieved by shooting that way. There's 4 main lighting setups for shooting a specific subject. Each lighting setup uses just a few lights and they each create a different atmosphere. It's not essential that you use any of these lighting techniques, but being aware of them might help you come up with your own creative solutions about how you want to light something. Butterfly lighting, otherwise known as paramount lighting, is generally used for beauty shoots. It involves 2 lights, the key light, which is the main light, which sits high above the subject, pointing down, and then a fill light, which is around the same height as the subject, shooting directly on. Short lighting is another popular lighting technique which has a bit more of a dramatic look. It just uses 1 light at a minimum, and you use this with a reflector. Generally the main light is off the camera axis, and the light falls on one side of the subject, farthest from the camera. Rembrandt lighting is somewhat similar to short lighting, but it also involves a key light in the same way that butterfly lighting does. Broad lights are opposite of short lighting. You can also shoot this with 1 light and a reflector. It generally creates a flatter look, and the lighter side of the subject is on the main side of the camera. These lighting setups aren't rules for you to follow, but they're rules for you to be able to manipulate and do what you need to do. Lighting for green screen, on the other hand, can be quite specific, and if you don't get it right, you can spend hours in post-production later on trying to key the footage correctly. When you're lighting green screen, you'll generally light the screen separately from the subject that you're shooting. It's really important that the green screen is lit flat and that the subject is backlit so that you can separate the two things later.
I think some of the key things to remember when shooting green screen, you want your green background to be as flat as possible, without shadows. This is achieved through correct lighting, and also to keep what you're shooting as far as you possibly can away from the green, to avoid their shadows appearing on the background as well. Reflective clothing is, or anything shiny, is going to pick up some of the colour of the background, so you have to be careful with this as well. I think the green generally contrasts well with a lot of skin tones, allowing you to easily remove the background. Blue would be used, if your people are wearing some kind of, if you need to have green in the shoot.